NFL, every so often there are what are known as franchise-defining moments. Well, for the Detroit Lions, their moment came when they made a trade with another franchise for what was their trash and turned it into ultimate treasure. We're going to talk about it in this episode, folks, and stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Lions fans. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. Here's the thing, folks. For today's episode, we're just going to go straight at it. No notes, no research. It's just you and me. We're having a conversation where I'm sitting down as if I were in a room with you, and we're just going back and forth, having a good old conversation about football, about the Lions. Here's the thing, folks. I can say this right now with 100% of certainty. Just saying this right out there. The more I take a look back at every single decision that Brad Holmes has made, and when I say that, I'm talking about the major ones, the more I am left in complete awe and wonder of what the man has done for the Lions. Because I'm telling you this right now, I don't know if the man came in with a playbook as far as what he wanted to do, but it sure as hell seems like it, because every single move that he has made almost seems like as if he knew exactly what he was doing, as if someone had wrote the instructions for him and just said, hey, this is what you do. Because that is how almost damn near perfect these moves have been. Now, when we're thinking about that, every single move that has happened is brilliant in and of itself. But the one move that has so much genius behind it, that absolutely shows and continues to show, and every single day that goes by makes it even more apparent of just how damn brilliant, how much of a genius move it was for Brad Holmes, was the trade that Brad Holmes facilitated with the Los Angeles Rams, sending Matthew Stafford to the Rams in exchange for Jared Goff and the draft picks that we got. Because let's first and foremost understand this from the perspective of just the historical avenue of that trade. Without that trade, the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade being facilitated, the Lions as we know them today do not exist. They were never born. Because without those draft picks, you're not getting the Lions that we have. You're not even getting anywhere close. You might get maybe, at best, if you're lucky, a third of the talent that Brad Holmes has been able to manifest that we have currently right now. That's at best. The trade that freaking Brad Holmes pulled off for Goff with Stafford and those draft picks are what has made the Lions today. Now, obviously, everybody knows that as far as the draft picks are concerned, because Brad Holmes took those 2 first-round draft picks and that third-round draft pick, and he made it into the Lions roster that we currently see right now. Which, how he turned 3 draft picks into a roster that we currently have for the most part, again, purely brilliant. But to simply take a look at that trade and just put a lot of the onus of that trade and all the brilliance on the draft picks is a complete, utter disservice to Jared Goff. Because you have to take a look at Jared Goff in that trade, and you have to take a look at that one part of that trade, and realize that that has just as equal amount of brilliance, if not more brilliance to it, because of the impact not only that Jared Goff has had on the Detroit Lions franchise, but also on the Rams franchise. Because again, the player Jared Goff, has had impact on both franchises. One because of how things happened after he left the franchise, and one because of how he has been able to impact the other franchise since he's been here. So let's take a look at that. Let's actually have this discussion, this conversation, because I'm telling you this right now. I'm telling you, Brad Holmes literally 100% fleeced the freaking Rams and Sean McVay. Like, I don't know if Brad Holmes has the ability to see things into the future or if he is just that damn good at his job. I believe that he is, but sometimes I wonder. But you have to think about it. Brad Holmes literally ripped off, fleeced, robbed Sean McVay so freaking badly in that trade. And Les Snead, let's not forget about him. He ripped them off so bad that with every passing day, it looks even better for him and worse for them. Because we have to understand something here. Let's just go back to the origins of the trade itself. Let's go back to how this whole thing transpired. Obviously, we know Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, they're hired after Quinn Trisha are fired. And Matthew Stafford, he's like, listen, I don't want to go through another rebuild. I want out. I want to go to a team where I can win. We all know the story. So the Lions, they facilitate him. They're like, hey, you know what? We're going to do right by you. We're going to find a team that you want to go to, and that's how this is going to work. Now, this is where Brad Holmes' first kind of genius really comes out. As we all know, there were other teams that were in the market for Stafford's services. And it took literally kind of like a last-minute kind of coincidental moment of the fact that Stafford and McVay were at the same vacation spot in order for this whole thing to kind of go down. Because realistically, had that whole thing not happened and, you know, Brad Holmes kind of waiting around to see if maybe something better would have came up, it's quite entirely possible that Stafford would have gone to the Panthers because the Panthers were knocking on the door like saying they really wanted Stafford. And just imagine this, Stafford going to the Panthers, and instead of getting Jared Goff from the Rams, we get Teddy Bridgewater as our starting quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater was fine as a backup quarterback, but there's no way I would have wanted him as the starting quarterback long term. You can forget it. So let's think about that. We then have the trade. Goff comes to Detroit with the picks. Stafford goes to LA with the Rams. Now, obviously, we go to 2021. And for us Lions fans, 2021, along with the rest of the team, was absolutely sheer hell on earth. It was miserable because we could not win. We looked absolutely horrendous. Our team was absolutely it was just a mess. Because Brad Holmes had to literally tear the team down to the studs. Literally, it was a skeleton crew to build it back up because that was how badly Patricia and Quinn had managed the team. So we're in 2021, and the Lions are absolutely just floundering. They're not getting anywhere. Whereas Matthew Stafford out there with Sean McVay, they're living it up. They're laughing. They're having a great grand old time. They're going through teams, and they're well on their way in the race to the Super Bowl. Because let's think about it. That was exactly why the Rams, that's why McVay, that's why Snead made that trade. Because they said, we believe we have a roster right now that we can win with, but we can't win with Jared Goff. That was what Sean McVay in essence said. Jared Goff's not good enough. I can't win with him. Which is weird considering the fact that Jared Goff only, 2-3 years prior had gotten him to the Super Bowl, but yet somehow Goff wasn't good enough. Let's just keep that in mind because I'm going to bring that back around later. Just keep that in mind. So now Stafford's out in LA and he's living it up with Sean McVay. They're lighting the NFL up on fire. You got Stafford that's enjoying arguably the best year of his career ever since, the 5,000 yards that he was here in Detroit. Just absolutely having a great grand old time. McVay looks like he's a genius because he was moving off of Goff, got the quarterback that he wanted, and his offense is just lighting up defenses. Whereas Jared Goff and the Lions are barely able to score enough points to even be considered a competitive team most Sundays. And by the time the end of the season has come along, there's a little bit of life, there's a little bit of hope. But again, it's a 3-13-1 team. There's not much to really be happy about. There's not really much to be hopeful about. There's some signs of life at the end of the season. That's just the truth. That's the way it was. I'm not trying to, make it out to be something that it wasn't. But at the end of 2021, the Lions looked like exactly what the trade had pretty much manifested itself to be at the beginning. Hey, the Lions are hitting the reset button. They're pretty much starting over from scratch, whereas the Rams, they're getting their quarterback and they're making a push for the Super Bowl. Now, here's the thing, though. In 2021, we have to understand a few things. The Rams, while they said, yeah, we just needed that one more piece to go and get that Super Bowl, it really wasn't one more piece. They had to get more than just one more piece because they went and made a trade for Stafford. They then went and made a trade for Von Miller. They then went out and got OBJ in the free agency market. They then went out and coaxed Eric Weddle out of retirement. So it wasn't like Stafford was the quote-unquote last piece to get the Rams to the Super Bowl. There were about 3 or 4 last pieces so that way they could buy that Super Bowl. And I mean that with all sincerity. The Rams, in essence, bought that Super Bowl victory because they literally mortgaged their entire damn future to get that one Super Bowl win. Whereas the Lions took that mortgage and they cashed it in for the future that we have right now. Now, you take a look at Jared Goff in this whole situation. The Lions are like, okay, we got this draft capital. And that's what the fans are saying. That's what the media are looking at. Hey, the Lions have this draft capital. They are set up to build this team the right way. But it all starts with getting the quarterback right. Because if you talked, and I seriously mean this, if you talked to damn near almost any analyst or almost any fan, whether it was Lions fan or not, about the Lions, they would have said Jared Goff's not the dude. He's a bridge quarterback. He's a stopgap. And that is literally what we heard from virtually damn near everybody about Goff. He's a bridge quarterback. He's a stopgap. The Lions are going to replace him soon. He's not the guy. And I'm telling you this right now. Again, for 3 years, I have fought that battle, and I'm glad I don't have to fight it anymore. But I'll tell you this, the first year and a half that I had to fight it, the amount of arguments and freaking, videos I had to make on this conversation, oh, good Lord. But the point of the matter is that Brad Holmes said, no, we're going to build the team around Goff rather than building a quarterback for a team. Brad Holmes understood the message. Brad Holmes understood the assignment. You have to build a team around a quarterback rather than putting a quarterback and putting it to a team. It's one way or the other. You can't have it that way. You can't have the quarterback be first and then build the team around him. The team has to come first. Well, Jared Goff was already there, so Brad Holmes knew what he had in Jared Goff. He helped draft him, so he's like, okay, I know what I need to get Jared Goff in order for this team to work. But again, Lions fans, Lions analysts, and a bunch of other people didn't want to hear that. That wasn't sexy. That wasn't entertaining. So 2021 comes and goes. The Lions don't look that good. But now they got a high draft pick in 2022. They have a chance to go out and get the best player in the draft, which is Aiden Hutchinson, which they do. And then they have an extra first-round draft pick. Many people are thinking that the Lions are going to take a quarterback, so that way maybe Goff's there for one more year, but they move off of him. Doesn't happen. In fact, the Lions go out and get Jared Goff a weapon. We go through the entire 2022 offseason. Now we've come to this point where it's like, okay, the Rams, they're feeling on cloud 9 because they've won the Super Bowl. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. The Lions are like, okay, we've gone through our 1 year of hell. Now it's time to start building towards the future. Now it's about trying to get this whole, grit identity, this whole culture of biting kneecaps and everything else off the ground. Let's get it going. Well, as we now know, 2022, the Lions, they come out firing on offense, but the team overall stumbles. We start off 1-6, and it's like, man, this team, it has the ability to score points, but we're not winning games. And then, all of a sudden, I swear to God, it's like as if somebody just freaking turned on a light, flipped a switch, something. We go from 1-6 to then finishing the year 8-2, and we literally come that damn close to making a playoff berth. After being 3-13-1 the previous year, we are this close to making a playoff berth in 1 year. So it's like, hey, the Lions, it seems like the culture that they have established, they have figured it out. They have found a way to not only win, but win close games, win big games, win games that most people wouldn't have even thought were important. They found a way to win. They have stuck to the process that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have established, and they've done it with Jared Goff, a supposed bridge quarterback. What about the Rams, though? Oh, that's right. Like I said earlier, the Rams had mortgaged everything in 2021 for their Super Bowl. Well, then in 2022, OBJ is gone because they can't pay him because they don't have any money. Von Miller's gone because they can't pay him because they don't have any money. Eric Weddle goes back into retirement. So all those star players that you acquired in 2021, they're gone. And then Matthew Stafford starts having chronic injury problems. He has to sit out the year. So then you have the Rams who go from being a Super Bowl winner to then they're finishing the year 5-12. And then you start seeing how the whole trade narrative really takes a massive 360 complete turn. Think about it, folks. You think about this. Prior to the trade, it was like McVay could do no wrong. McVay was the golden child. McVay was getting rid of a bum quarterback, an average quarterback that he couldn't win with. Well, then all of a sudden, Jared Goff goes out to Detroit, the one place where it is almost damn near impossible to win, and in his second year, he gets them a winning season, and like I said, they almost go to the playoffs. Whereas Sean McVay, with the quarterback that he absolutely needed, he had to have to win with, they go and have a 5-12 record, if I recall correctly, and Sean McVay is contemplating retirement and going to the booth, supposedly. That's how quickly that whole narrative had changed. Like, maybe Jared Goff's not as bad as we thought, because the whole thought process was, well, Jared Goff's not good enough to win without Sean McVay. But yet, only 2 years removed from him, he has a winning record and almost goes to the playoffs. So 2022 is now done and over with. The narrative is starting to change. The thought process is starting to change. Maybe the Lions actually got a lot better of a deal out of the trade than what they originally thought. Maybe they got more than just the draft picks. But maybe still, the Lions might still want to get a better quarterback because Goff is limited. He's really good in the system that he's in, but he's not going to elevate it. Once again, the Lions don't do that. The Lions get a quality, competent backup quarterback in Hendon Hooker, kind of an insurance piece, but they continue to stay determined. They continue to stay with Jared Goff because that's their guy. So now we go into 2023. The Lions, they are now full up with talent. They have used their draft picks very well. Now they're getting ready to, take 2023 and run with it. The Rams, on the other hand, they're trying to just recover from what happened in 2022. And the roster, it don't look too particularly appealing, at least at first glance. Why? Oh, that's right, because let's go back to 2021 when the Rams had won the Super Bowl. I seem to recall a certain GM, Les Snead, and Sean McVay, head coach, saying, screw them picks. They used a different word. I'm not going to say it here on my channel, at least in this format, but you get what I'm saying. Screw them picks. We don't need them picks. We know what we're doing. We got it all taken care of. We got it all thought out. Yeah, you had it all thought out. That's how you went from being a Super Bowl winner to being a 5-12 team at the very next year. That's a huge fall from grace. And then you take a look at how 2023 started. 2023 was literally the exact opposite for the Lions. They literally started 1-6 in 2022. You take a look at how they started 2023. They came out firing on all cylinders. They were just going through opponents. There were some games that they dropped, but they were just, hey, you know what? We're here and we're in charge. We're going to win the division. And think about it. We had the division wrapped up in time for Christmas. That was how good we were. We had the division wrapped up in time for Christmas as a present for the fans. That's impressive. Whereas the Rams, how did they start 2023? Oh, that's right. They had started 2023 3-6. Kind of like the way we started 2022. Very, very slow. It looks like we're not going anywhere. And then just like 2022, the Rams go from 3-6 to finishing the year 10-7, and they're in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs. And wouldn't you just happen to know it, almost as if the NFL had kind of orchestrated it, the Lions have a home playoff game, and who's coming to town? Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and the Rams. So now you have the ultimate showdown. You have the definition of what you're talking about. Everything comes full circle. You have the guy that was shipped off in disgrace in Detroit, playing against his old coach, his old team, and the guy that was pretty much there for when the Lions were terrible, tried to make something out of it. He's coming back to town so that way he can kind of have one last hurrah in his old home stadium. You have the best of both worlds. It's a great venue. It's a great game. Everything you could possibly want. But this is the moment. This is the moment that Jared Goff steps up and says, I am going to take things into my own control here. And with the help of the team, with the help of the Lions and everybody else, Jared Goff steps out and he establishes himself as, no, I am not a bridge quarterback. No, I'm not just a stopgap. I'm not just a system quarterback. I am the quarterback of the Detroit Lions. I am the franchise quarterback of the Detroit Lions. Because what does he do? He gets the Lions and he plays lights out football against the Rams, and what happens? The very last play of the game that we need to win, the Lions put the ball in Goff's hands, Goff throws it to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's it. Game over. Think about that. The guy that couldn't win was Sean McVay. The guy that Sean McVay said couldn't win for him. He wasn't good enough to win. Was good enough to get the Detroit Lions, a team that hadn't won a playoff game in 30 plus years. He got them their victory. Nice to know that Sean McVay apparently knows what he knows. Because if Jared Goff could do what he did for the Detroit Lions, as Dan Campbell said, you're more than good enough for Detroit, Jared Goff. More than good enough. My whole point is this. To kind of wrap this whole thing up, bring everything full circle here. Think about this, folks. Brad Holmes made a trade for a guy that virtually every single analyst and a lot of Lions fans when we made the trade thought was nothing more than, as I said, a bridge quarterback, a stopgap. He was a bum. Nobody thought that this guy had anything left. His career was virtually on life support. There was not very many people that thought he had anything left. But yet, Brad Holmes knew what he saw in Jared Goff. He knew what he had because he knew that Jared Goff was being unfairly represented by Sean McVay. That Sean McVay was pushing a narrative that the media was gobbling up because Sean McVay has such a fragile ego that he had to find a scapegoat to make sure that he wasn't the one that was taking the blame for why his offense was failing in 2019 and 2020. He used it on Jared Goff. The problem was that Sean McVay didn't address the areas of his offense that needed to be fixed, which was the offensive line was falling apart and the running game was falling apart. Once those areas got established and then you got Matthew Stafford, man, it was a kind of an interesting, coinky-dink how they went back to their original form back in 2018, 2017. Yet Jared Goff comes out here, takes a franchise that has been so destitute over the years of talent and success, and literally in the span of 3 years, something that Matthew Stafford couldn't do. Granted, Matthew Stafford didn't have the organization that, Jared Goff has, but still, Jared Goff took the talent that he had, no Megatron, no Sue, none of that, and was able to get the Lions a division title, 2 playoff wins in the same season, and to a conference championship game. All in 3 years. That's rather impressive for, the golden boy saying that I can't win with Jared Goff. He's not good enough. Yet Jared Goff comes out to probably one of the most snake-bitten franchises in the entirety of sports history. And in 3 years, he's got the Lions literally within a whisker of going to a Super Bowl. It wasn't like the Lions just got to the championship game and then got absolutely destroyed by the Niners. We were that close, that freaking close to going to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. If Jared Goff would have gotten the Lions to the Super Bowl, I guarantee you that Sean McVay would have been about that big in the sight of the NFL because it's like, man, oh man, you say you couldn't win with this guy, but Jared Goff goes to the Detroit Lions. The team that has never been to a Super Bowl has been the laughingstock for not having any success over the last, 3, 4, 5 decades. And he gets them to a Super Bowl? Sean McVay, how in the hell can you not win with this guy when he gets when he takes the Lions to the Super Bowl? How can you not win with him? That's why Brad Holmes fleeced the ever-living hell out of Sean McVay and Les Snead. Because think about this, folks. Yeah, Matthew Stafford won the Rams their Super Bowl. Yay! They got their Super Bowl. That's a good accomplishment. Not taking that away. That's a good accomplishment. You got your Super Bowl. But think about this, folks. Think about the Jared Goff that we have with the Detroit Lions. Had Sean McVay swallowed his damn pride, not been so egotistical, and had to have everything his way, he could have had the Jared Goff that we have right now. And I guarantee you this, the Rams could be a team that would challenge the damn freaking Chiefs for one of the best teams in the NFL as far as dynasty building mode. Because think about it. Jared Goff has a winning record against freaking Patrick Mahomes. He's 2-0 against Patrick Mahomes in primetime games. Jared Goff has proven that he's one of the few guys that can actually contend and go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and win. So think about that. You went out and you traded for Matthew Stafford. In haste, you got your Super Bowl. But if you'd have stuck with Jared Goff, how many damn Super Bowls do you think the Rams could have won long term? Jared Goff's only 29 years old, folks. He's easily got 5 or 6 more years of good football. But wait a minute. The Lions just signed Jared Goff to a 4-year, $212 million contract. He's our quarterback long term. How old's Matthew Stafford? 35, 36 years old. He's not got much time left. And again, the amount of injuries he sustained, his body's going to start giving out a lot sooner than Jared Goff's. The point of the matter is this. Jared Goff got the better end of the deal. Brad Holmes got the better end of the deal. The Lions, Jared Goff and Brad Holmes, they got a deal that was going to spread out over years, if not a decade more. All the Rams got was instant gratification by mortgaging their future and mortgaging their long-term ability to win by getting their Super Bowl right away. That's what they did. Which, you know what? Great for them. They got their Super Bowl. But I don't want one Super Bowl. I don't want to have that instant fame, that instant success, and then all of a sudden fade into, irrelevance and mediocrity, which is pretty much kind of like what the Rams did. Sure, they got back to the playoffs, but they were a one-and-done exit, thanks to Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. The Lions now are a contending team that a lot of other teams do not want to play. We're a team that people don't want to play because that's how damn scary we are. Again, as I said in an old episode way back, the Lions are the NFL's boogeyman. We are a team that if you face us, you'd better bring your A game or we will freaking run all over you and we will throw all over you. And if the defense finally figures it out, which I think they will, we will freaking destroy you and dominate you. That is how Brad Holmes fleeced the ever-living hell out of Sean McVay and Les Snead. He not only got the better quarterback long-term and short-term, he also got the ability to build a team that, if continued to manage properly, I have no doubt could become one of the best teams in the NFL and maybe could do something that a lot of people could never believe would happen. Get that Super Bowl win. That's how brilliant Brad Holmes is. That is how damn good Jared Goff is. That, my friend, is the story of how the Lions have become the team that they are and how Brad Holmes is the best GM in the NFL and why Jared Goff is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That's the story. And I hope you all have enjoyed it. With that having been said, I'm going to end this episode here, and I just want to say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you like what you saw, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode, but I also encourage you all to please do this. Make sure after you subscribe, you also hit that bell notification icon, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. I also highly encourage you all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. And with that being said, I just want to say I hope you all enjoyed the content. I hope you all have had something that makes you smile, makes you happy today. And with that, I hope that you are just absolutely doing the best that you possibly can in the world. God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.